Hey Mustangs, in this video we're going to take a look at the circulatory system. Now before we get started we need to make sure that your notebook is set up correctly. Now in class we left off on about page 157, so what I'm going to need you to do is number from 157 all the way to page 172. So go ahead, pause the video right now and get those pages numbered. Alright, now we're going to start on page 170. So on the top of page 170, title it Intro to the Circulatory System, and you're just going to take a short little section of notes on the circulatory system and the basics of the circulatory system. Alright, so first things first is the function of the circulatory system. Now in class we talked about the fact that we're made up of trillions of cells, and each cell has its own special job. So there's different types of cells doing certain things. And when we go through the levels of organizations, we see that cells that have special jobs come together to make tissues, tissues come together to make specific organs, organs work with other organs to make organ systems. So that's where we are with the level of organization right now. We're looking at organ systems. So with the circulatory system, it has its own special job that it does. And each of the other body systems will have their own special jobs. So respiratory system has its own job, digestive system does another thing to keep the body going. So each one does its own thing. So with the circulatory system, you could think of it as the body's transport system. So basically, as you see here in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, it's basically a series of tubes running throughout your whole body. And these tubes carry fluid inside them to transport things throughout your entire body. Now, what exactly is being transported? We have to remember that our cells are living things. So each cell needs oxygen and nutrients, and each cell also creates waste that needs to be gotten rid of. So the circulatory system, its main function is to transport the oxygen nutrients to the cells and the waste away from the cells. And also an additional thing that you see here is hormones. So hormones are used as a means of communication between cells within the body. So the circulatory system will carry hormones to cells to let them know what they're supposed to be doing. Another function of the circulatory system is to help maintain homeostasis of body temperature. So as blood flows through these tubes, through these blood vessels here in your body, this actually creates heat. And so depending on how cold it is outside, your blood is actually moving at slightly different rates to either heat you up, cool you down. If it's really, really cold outside, and this is how frostbite happens, if your body gets extremely cold, the circulatory system will actually keep more blood in the core region of the body and less in the extremities. And when that happens, you're giving less blood to your fingers and toes, and as a result of that, basically the cells die, because it's not the blood itself, it's what's carried in the blood. The oxygen and the nutrients aren't getting to those cells, and the waste isn't being carried away efficiently, so those cells are going to die. So your circulatory system is also used in body temperature. Alright, so for the circulatory system, usually when people think of the circulatory system, they think of the blood vessels, the heart, but the circulatory system can actually be divided into two parts. The one that a lot of people don't really talk about is the lymphatic system. So let's go ahead and first this circulatory system, the cardiovascular, my bad. Alright, so the circulatory system, the first part is the cardiovascular system. And as part of the cardiovascular system, this includes blood vessels, and the heart. So that's usually what people think of when they think of the circulatory system. The second part of the circulatory system is the lymphatic system. And it's very similar. It has very similar kind of parts to the cardiovascular system. But it includes lymph fluid, lymph vessels, and lymph nodes. Alright, so closer look at the cardiovascular system. So we have the heart, which is part of the cardiovascular system. We have the blood vessels themselves, so the tubes that run throughout your entire body. And finally, the blood. Okay, the blood, again, a lot of people kind of start overthinking about what blood is. It's really what's in the blood, what's being carried in the blood, what's transported in the blood, that's the most important thing. Alright, so last thing we're going to talk about here in these intro notes will be the heart. So when we take a look at the heart, it's basically a pump. and it's designed to squeeze and pump blood through your body. So it keeps the blood flowing through the body, so it doesn't get stagnant, it doesn't stay still. Makes sure that oxygen, nutrients keep going to the cells and the waste keeps getting taken away from the cells. So the basic way to think of the heart is simply it's a pump. Okay? Now, this pump, it's mostly muscle, so it's actually made out of what we call cardiac muscle. So it squeezes and pumps with muscle by using muscle, and on the inside of the heart, it's actually hollow. So it might look solid when you see the outside of a heart. It looks like something that's like a solid structure, thinking like it's a solid organ, but it's actually hollow. And it has 4 chambers on the inside. So when I say it's hollow, the best way to think about this is think of those chocolate bunnies that you get around Easter, where you have those nice little chocolate bunnies, and when you bite into it, it's not solid, it's hollow on the inside. That's basically how the heart is. So you have all this muscle on the outside, and then you have 4 hollow chambers on the inside. Now, the names of those chambers, you have 2 chambers that are called atria. Atria is plural, atrium is singular. These are the parts of the heart where the blood goes into the heart. Then you have 2 ventricles. These are the parts of the heart that are the pump. So these are the parts of the heart that squeeze and push blood out of the heart. And then you have 4 valves, and these basically stop blood from going back in the wrong direction. So valves ensure that blood goes one way through your circulatory system and doesn't backflow. Okay? Now your heart can pump about 5 liters of blood per minute. That's about, I believe, 1.3 gallons. So a little over 1 gallon of blood per minute. Alright, so here is a picture of a heart. Kind of not what you would expect when you think of the typical heart drawings that we do, but if you look at it closely, it kind of resembles that shape right there. So you go like that and that right there, and you can see like the traditional heart shape that we're used to drawing. So this is what the heart looks like, and on the inside, if we were to cut the heart open, we would see the 4 chambers. So this is 1 chamber, this is another chamber, here's the 3rd, and here's the 4th. Now the 2 on top, these are the atriums right here. This is where blood comes into the heart. And the bottom down here, these V-shaped ones, the good way to remember these are the ventricles. So the V-shaped ones are the ventricles. Those are the pumps that pump blood out to the body. Okay? So basically, the reason why you have one side of the heart here and then the other side of the heart here is because this is the side that receives blood from the body that's oxygen poor, where it's mostly has a lot of carbon dioxide in it, very little oxygen. So blood comes back from the body into this atrium here. It gets pumped into this ventricle here, and this valve makes sure it only goes that way and it can't backflow. So this is a valve right here. Okay, it's the valve right here. Then the ventricle pumps the blood out, and this actually goes to the lungs. So the blood goes to the lungs, picks up oxygen, and then comes back to the lungs into this part of the heart. On this side of the heart here, this is the atrium here as well. The blood goes through this valve here. This ventricle then pumps the oxygen-rich blood out to the body. And then it'll go out through the body, come back, oxygen pour here. Okay, so that's basically the way it works. Real quickly, so we're going to label these, but of course I don't want you to draw this complex drawing here. So what we'll do is we'll draw the traditional heart. So over here on the side, just draw a heart like this. Okay, and we'll divide it into the 4 chambers. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this right here, this is the right atrium. Oops, I spelled it wrong. Let me do that again. IUM. There you go. So there's the right atrium. And down here is the right ventricle. Okay, and I know some of you are thinking, uh-oh, Miss Palmer made a mistake here. That's the left side. Looking at it, it's the left side. Basically, we're looking at this. If you were looking at somebody, you know how when you're looking at someone, your left is their right. So this is if you're looking at somebody's heart in front of you. Okay, so this is your left is actually their right. So this is the right atrium, right ventricle. Over here on this side then would be the left atrium and left ventricle. This program's not so easy to manipulate here. All right, the way to remember which comes first, A before V, so alphabetical order, A before V, atrium comes before ventricle, and of course the shape as well. That V shape tells you that the ventricles are down there on the bottom. All right, so that's the end of the intro notes. Make sure you've labeled everything and you're good to go.